Hi, this is Alan Johnston. We make 2 editions of From Our Own Correspondent. If you'd like to hear the version I introduce on the BBC World Service, you can find it by going to the BBC iPlayer. But here's the one broadcast on BBC Radio 4. It's presented by Kate Adie.
Today, arrested the Russians who use humour to protest about police brutality and corruption. A journalist beaten to death in a Siberian police cell. A senior officer on a drunken shooting spree in a Moscow supermarket. A kidnapped businessman in the boot of a patrol car. Almost every day there seems to be a fresh scandal involving Russia's police. The Moscow Academy of Sciences found that 1 in every 5 citizens is tortured, beaten or harassed by Interior Ministry officers each year. So it's not surprising, as Prime Minister Vladimir Putin himself admitted, that most Russians cross the street at the very sight of a man in uniform. But Lucy Ash has been finding out that some have found their own way of dealing with the lawless law enforcers.
The country was transfixed this summer by a group of 6 young men from a remote village in Primoria, in Russia's Far East, who declared a guerrilla war on the police. In a video made when they were hiding in the forest, they wave guns at the camera and boast about their exploits, including stabbing a policeman to death. Astonishingly, many people hailed them as heroes. TV news began calling them the Primorsky partisans. Kremlin officials were furious and instructed the media to label them bandits instead. Eventually 2 were killed in a shootout, and the rest are behind bars awaiting trial. But in Vladivostok, the regional capital, I saw walls daubed with graffiti. "Partisans, your courage is not forgotten." Back in Moscow, I met another set of young people, equally determined to fight the police. But although the name of the group is Voina, or war, their methods are non-violent, and their weapons are satire and showmanship rather than knives and shotguns. Last June, the politically conscious art collective caused a stir when they painted a huge penis on a drawbridge in St. Petersburg. As the Litieni Bridge opened to let ships pass down the Neva, the erect phallus, 65 metres tall and 27 metres across, sent an unmistakable message to a building directly opposite, the local headquarters of the KGB's successors, the Federal Security Service. In another stunt designed to expose police impunity, one member of the group went into a supermarket wearing a police uniform. He filled 5 bags with the most expensive food he could find and calmly walked out without paying. Nobody challenged him. Still more daringly, in September, Voina members overturned several police patrol cars. That involved 31 activists, 5 to do the heavy lifting, while the rest filmed what was happening, acted as lookouts, or distracted police by pretending to be lost tourists. Having seen their videos on the internet, I was keen to meet people from Voina, but it proved tricky. I'd been emailing someone called Sandra. She wouldn't give me a phone number, but arranged a late-night rendezvous outside a Moscow metro station. As I stood waiting, I realised I had no idea what she looked like. To make matters worse, a guy in a hooded blue jacket kept eyeballing me. I turned my back and walked a few paces away. "Lucy," he said. "Lucy from BBC?" I swung around defensively. "Pleased to meet you," he said. "I'm the Sandra you're waiting for, but you can call me Thief." It dawned on me that this bloke with a scraggy blonde beard must be Oleg Vorotnikov. I recognised the activist who dressed as the shoplifting policeman and one of the founders of Voina. He set it up 3 years ago with a bunch of fellow students from the philosophy department of Moscow State University. Standing next to him, a small, pale-faced woman in a woolly hat was introduced as Kozlyanok, or Little Goat. She's a physics graduate and her day job involves cancer research. There was a 1.5-year-old toddler clinging to her coat called Casper. I also met Voina's president, Crazy Lyonya. He's famous for climbing onto a state security officer's car with a blue bucket on his head to protest against the widespread use of blue emergency lights by officials who can't be bothered to wait in Moscow's traffic jams. Why wasn't he scared of getting run over or arrested, I wonder? Our society has lived in fear for so many decades, we're trying to wake it by kicking it, replied Lyonya. People see what we did and understand you can live in a different way. You can be braver. Suddenly Varotnikov is on his hands and knees on the rain-slicked pavement, showing me how he crawled into one Moscow police station, which had a reputation for racism. The officers there treated local immigrants like animals, so we got down on all fours and turned their station into a farmyard. Then we formed a human pyramid and began reciting avant-garde poetry. The police looked on dumbfounded, confused by the fact that the activists had arrived with cakes, tea, and a huge portrait of the Russian president. They were desperate to get rid of us, said Kozlyonok, but at first they thought we were officials from the Kremlin. I was struck by Voina's courage and ingenuity, and frankly amazed that in today's Russia they'd got away with so many outlandish actions. But then a few days ago, Kozlyonok emailed me to say that both Oleg and Lyonya had been arrested on charges of hooliganism for overturning the police cars. They will be kept in pre-trial detention for at least 2 months, and Oleg wrote to say that his cell is freezing and dark as a coffin. Kozlyonok tried to send him food and warm clothes, but her parcel was rejected. The St. Petersburg police must have little sense of humour.
Lucy Ash.